The hare goes straight towards the snake. Can it not see the danger? As soon as the long-eared one is at a short distance, the reptile launches an attack, but the hare jumps back surprisingly fast and spectacularly. As strange as it may seem, it does not flee but approaches the enemy again. The snake cannot believe it has a second chance, but it immediately attacks again and misses once more. The hare demonstrates incredible speed, agility, maneuverability, and reaction. The snake could not catch it even once. Moreover, the hare itself started to attack the venomous reptile. The secret of its behavior is simple. Nearby, there is a burrow with young ones, and the hare will perform any feat to protect them. The snake is stunned by such pressure, but the long-eared one turns out to be practically invulnerable to its attacks, while its own bites discomfort the reptile. As a result of the epic fight, the hare chased the snake to a tree. It seems incredible, but that is the power of parental love. Today, we are going to show you other cases where snakes underestimated their enemies and paid dearly for it. This snake usually feeds on amphibians like frogs, but not this time. The reptile didn't know who it would encounter during its night hunt. The enormous toad attacked the snake and almost swallowed it so quickly that a spectator barely had time to record the final struggle. Most of the snake's body is already in the toad's mouth. The reptile cannot twist at such an angle to bite its opponent. Moreover, the toad's body is simply too large and rounded, so it wouldn't be possible to latch onto it and bite the amphibian's skin with its venomous fangs, even if it managed to grab it. The amphibian only had to keep working with its jaws, conserving energy and not jumping anywhere. And it succeeded. In the end, the toad simply ate its opponent. That's how the fight ended. Minks are small predators, but unexpectedly formidable. This animal acted so quickly that the cameraman could only capture the result of the fight. The large venomous snake is defeated and goes from being a formidable predator to the lunch of a furry fighter. As the rattlesnake is one of the most dangerous hunters in all the wildlife of the New World, at least in its weight category. This reptile possesses an extraordinary striking speed, surpassing most cold-blooded predators and many warm-blooded ones. Snakes usually attack by twisting their necks and using the accumulated energy to literally shoot their heads towards a target to bite it. But the rattlesnake has taken this tactic to an incredible level of skill. Observe how impressively its body bends as the fight begins. This allows the rattlesnake to attack extremely quickly. The speed of this venomous snake's attack is so fast that the victim usually barely has time to notice the attack. First, they feel pain and then realize what has happened. When many decades ago, farmers in the United States decided to fight against the large number of rattlesnakes on their lands they should not have, because the snake exterminates rodents and saves the crops. But well, that's another story. They brought mongooses to Asia. And guess what? The cobra hunters, who can crush the neck of a venomous snake the length of a man in a fierce and furious fight, failed. And the bite of the rattlesnake is simply too fast. The mongoose, even with its extremely quick reflexes, did not have time to dodge and received a lethal dose of venom. And the tactics against the cobra did not work with the rattlesnakes. In the end, the mongooses became a pest because they started hunting poultry. The toxin of the rattlesnake differs significantly in its chemical composition and action from the venom of the same cobra, while the venom of the latter is a complex neurotoxin that causes convulsions, pain, and, most importantly, disables the respiratory muscles. The toxin of the rattlesnake acts quite differently, but it should not be underestimated. It is a complex hemotoxin that primarily destroys the composition of the blood and affects the heart and blood vessels. The potency of the venom is so great that the venom of the rattlesnake can handle almost any animal in its habitat. And I do not mean any dangerous predator, but any animal, from a mouse to a bison. But this does not mean that this snake is invulnerable. In this case, the rattlesnake did not expect to encounter not only resistance, but also a crushing attack. The snake simply did not realize what it was up against. In fact, this bird does not seem dangerous, but when the reptile tried to scare off the winged enemy and prepared to deliver a deadly strike, it made a mistake. It came into contact with a roadrunner. This bird does not have a sharp, curved beak or huge eagle claws, but it possesses almost definitive and nearly invincible tactics to face such adversaries. The roadrunner has perfectly calculated both the distance and the timing to strike faster than the snake will dare to make its own lunge. The roadrunner approaches the stunned rattlesnake and in a fraction of a second grabs its head with its beak. Yes, the head is where the mouth with the venomous fangs is located, so such a strike may seem too risky, but the roadrunner knows very well what it is doing. By grabbing the rattlesnake by the skull, the bird suppresses any resistance from the adversary and completely neutralizes the threat of a bite. Physically, the snake cannot make any sudden movements. It writhes, but the difference in size and weight is not in its favor, so there is no way to break free. All of this happened in a matter of moments. The bird, after a deafening attack on the opponent's head, began to develop the attack brutally and powerfully with powerful blows. The roadrunner strikes the snake's head quickly and accurately against a hard surface several times with a force that literally cracks the snake's thin bones. These spectacular blows cause severe damage to the reptile almost immediately. The first fall onto the rocks already leaves the rattlesnake deeply knocked out. However, the roadrunner, of course, does not stop. It continues hitting the snake calmly and methodically, several blows per second. Such a pace cannot be withstood by the reptile. Such a forceful attack breaks the base of the snake's skull, the cervical vertebrae, and instantly brings fatal consequences. The snake goes from being a formidable predator capable of taking down a buffalo to becoming the prey of its opponent. That said, it may seem that the bird was just lucky to catch the reptile before it had time to use its fangs. Of course, it cannot be said that the roadrunner simply exterminates all the rattlesnakes in its path. But even so, the bird's chances are much greater because it has excellent speed of reaction and movement. Here, the lifestyle of the winged fighter plays its role. This species of cuckoo runs very well and quickly. This bird is the famous cartoon roadrunner that the coyote used to chase. And although in the cartoons the bird is exactly a slippery runner that doesn't fight the enemy but avoids fights, as you can see, reality is quite different. Not even the fastest snake can mess with the bird. Such a feat by the roadrunner deserves your like, don't you think? Peacocks are famous mainly for their striking appearance and the male's habit of performing extravagant dances and displaying themselves to the females during mating season. Even when coiled, their long tails are impressively colorful, but when the peacock wants to show off its beauty, it stands up and spreads this tail into an incredibly wide and impressive fan that can be much larger than the bird's body, literally several times its size. It looks very pretty, doesn't it? At the same time, this spectacular appearance has its own utilitarian function. This attractiveness is inherent only to the males, as they need to attract the attention of the females. The females do not have such a colorful appearance, lacking long tails, but otherwise they are not inferior to the males. They walk with elegance and choose the most active and attractive male. There is a stereotype that these mating displays are the only expressive feature of the entire species. Apuntos. But that is not the case. Asim por la casa apuntamos. Behind this exterior elegance hides a true fighter capable of attacking even a dangerous and fearsome adversary like a large venomous snake. When reptiles enter the territory of peacocks, the birds seem to rejoice. The males have the opportunity to show the females not only their beauty, but also their strength in a real battle against a formidable enemy. Notice one detail. The peacocks, confident in themselves, suddenly react calmly to the appearance of a venomous and dangerous enemy. There are no fusses or attempts to retreat hastily to then counterattack. The peacocks react to a venomous snake as calmly as if they fought against it every day. When the snakes approach the peacocks, they are in for a truly unpleasant encounter. Perhaps if the snake had chosen to retreat, it would have avoided the bird's attack, but it was at a short distance, and the peacock saw it as a personal challenge. Isas ataidelas ando tas. The bird delivered a series of powerful blows right to the head. Peacocks are usually peaceful and loyal, even with other species of poultry, so they get along well on farms with hens and roosters, which are usually very aggressive, as well as with turkeys and geese, but they do not tolerate the presence of reptiles in their territory. The fierce peacock shows its attitude towards the threat. Instantly, it enters into combat without hesitation. The snake is probably interested in the bird as food, but it is also important for the peacock to protect its family. The dose of venom from a reptile bite is enough to kill all the birds in the area. Peacock chicks can also be an appetizing prey for the snake. It is probably here for them in vain. Despite its size, the peacock has excellent mobility, allowing it to skillfully dodge the attacks of the legless reptile. The bird attacks furiously and pressures the snake by striking it with its beak. The reptile tries to counterattack, but the peacock manages to maintain the initiative and successfully repel its counterattacks. With its beak, which resembles a short knife, the peacock can inflict serious damage on the snake with each accurate and successful strike. It is unlikely that the snake will survive a fight with such an opponent, because a second strike in the same spot would probably end up breaking the reptile's neck or fracturing its skull. And the peacock attacks very actively, so sooner or later it will finish off its opponent. In a way, peacocks can even act as guardians of farms against snakes. The cobra navigates with its excellent sense of smell and scents the defenseless kittens in the box next to their mother. The snake advances decisively. It has already partially spread its hood, showing the adult cat its readiness for battle. The female might retreat and manage to escape, but then she would abandon her young, who would become the cobra's lunch. But the aggressor underestimated the cat. Realizing that a dangerous enemy was approaching, she chose to counterattack. Respectable, isn't it? Its combat skill is no less admirable. The snake was startled by such accurate and sensitive blows with its claws on the snout. The ordinary cardboard box turned into a structure resembling a fortress. The cobra could have easily climbed the walls of the box, but it was knocked down and thrown back. The beast delivered scratches to the snake that were not dangerous, but they hurt the cobra and taught it to stay away. The cat couldn't use her jaws or grab the snake. Such a large cobra would undoubtedly have time to bite the female, and then her kittens would be defenseless against the venomous monster. So, the clever beast chose the tactic of short but frequent strikes. The cobra simply did not have time to bite back and grab the cat's paw, and the walls of the box protected the defender's head and body. The cat also showed great endurance, as she attacked the snake for quite a while. Her strikes were so fast that the snake had no chance to intercept them. Moreover, the initiative remained with the cat. At the moment of impact, the furry fighter's paw seemed like a blur. Thus, this cat was able to save her kittens and show the reptile that it was better off looking for lunch elsewhere. The kittens in this box are not defenseless at all because their mother is capable of true feats for their sake. This is one of the most intense, epic, and dramatic battle scenes, and therefore famous between snakes and their opponents. A huge venomous snake has attacked a heron in shallow waters, using its camouflage successfully. The snake is large by itself, but compared to the bird, it is a giant. Thanks to its excellent camouflage among the marsh vegetation, it managed to crawl up to the unsuspecting heron at a short striking distance. Then, it sank its venomous fangs into the bird's body and threw its body over it to prevent the victim from retreating. Indeed, the heron was in trouble. The bird was unable to take off, and the venomous fangs had penetrated its wing, so at first glance, it seemed like a lost cause for the bird, and the heron just writhed for a few seconds before falling silent and becoming the dinner of the cold-blooded monster. But it turned out that the snake didn't know who it was dealing with.
This heron is still young, but it has a lot of vitality and will to survive. It refuses to give up and continues its desperate and intense struggle, even though it seemed useless. Notice how it fights against a huge opponent and tries to free itself from the reptile's grasp. The winged fighter is as active as possible. The heron uses all its strength not only to repel the enemy, but also to move a little deeper into the depths, where it will be harder for the snake to fight. The reptile only has to tighten its jaws, trying to inject as much venom as possible into its body and maintain the grip. No, without limbs, the reptile cannot support itself on the muddy bottom, so it relies solely on its weight and the toxin, of course. But this is where the reptile has a problem. The venom of such a large adult snake could even take down a stallion. It's not surprising that it can stop the bird's heart in a couple of minutes, but this time something went wrong. The battle between the resisting bird and the attacking snake dragged on for too long. The heron's heart should have stopped a long time ago, but the bird is still alive and even actively fighting. Moreover, there are not even symptoms of primary intoxication. Instead of weakening and being distracted by the smell and cramps, the winged fighter only increases the pressure. It's as if not a single drop of venom had entered the bird's body, and now the only substance in the heron's blood, which is noticeably more than usual, is adrenaline. It's hard to be sure, but this possibility exists and offers hope. Often, birds use the feathers of their wings to repel a snake when the reptile attacks. This is what secretary birds do. For example, the heron, of course, did not repel the snake's attack, but it is very possible that it missed and struck only the thick plumage of the winged adversary's body with its venomous fangs. Furthermore, the snake is in shock because it probably did not realize what had happened. The bird's desperate and fierce resistance is a real surprise for it. The reptile thinks that now the venom will finish off the enemy, but the heron strikes blow after blow. Finally, the bird takes the initiative in this fight. Relying too much on its ultimate weapon was a clear mistake. It is true that perhaps it was the adrenaline rush that allowed the bird to resist after the first bite, but sooner or later, the venom will finish it off. Now, it was difficult to know. Moreover, the winged fighter is clearly inferior to the adversary, not only in arsenal, but also in size. The snake's body lacks limbs, so the tail, body, and neck intertwine smoothly. The snake is lighter than a lizard of similar length, but it is still stronger and heavier than this heron. To maintain the ability to fly, birds have developed a hollow and light skeleton and are generally not solid, so the snake has a clear advantage in brute strength that the reptile exploits. Even without using venom, thanks to the strength of its jaws, it easily grips the heron's wing and tries to pull the bird closer to suffocate it. Although the venomous fangs have not yet reached the heron's skin, they are too close. The slightest prick is enough for the toxin to decide the victory of one of the rivals in a matter of seconds. These are at least two reasons why the heron is so desperate to resist and try to break free from the enemy's grasp, and the heron shows what it is capable of. She does everything possible to win. To do this, she deflects the snake's attempts to grab her and attacks it with her sharp and long beak. This is a real problem for the reptile. The snake did not expect such a fierce reaction. The bird pierces the snake's scales, causing it pain and damaging its internal organs. The heron's beak suddenly becomes a very formidable weapon, precisely because of the piercing strikes. As the area of applied force is smaller, the penetrating effect is greater. Each strike threatens with a very deep wound. Moreover, a heron can gouge out an eye with a single thrust, and if it strikes several times on the neck, it can luckily damage the reptile's internal organs. The especially strong blows with the beak are aimed at the snake's head, which begins to regret its short-sighted attack on such a brave bird. Another advantage of the heron is its endurance. As being a warm-blooded creature, it has a more advanced cardiovascular system and therefore the ability to give much more of its ella. The snake is injured and tired. It tries to hold on because it has spent a lot of energy in this fight and now has to compensate for its efforts with food, but the heron wins. The bird successfully frees itself from the clutches of the aggressor, which persistently keeps its jaws waiting for the venom to take effect. But the reptile gives in to this pressure. After freeing itself from the snake's grip, the bird climbs to the shore. It keeps striking so that the snake abandons its carnivorous plans. Finally, the heron is on solid ground. It's hard to know if it will survive such a fierce attack. Its wing is injured. Overall, it is also battered. But since the heron is still standing and active, maybe the venom didn't really enter its system and serious fractures were avoided. So, it will survive. And the snake received a snub that it will definitely not forget. Which of the cases where snakes received a harsh snub impressed you the most? Answer in the comments and subscribe to our channel. That way, we will see each other more often.